Hello, making a video tonight about ways that you can ways to help you cope with gang stalking and neuroweapon exposure. Um, it is, you know, one the best thing to do is to accept the reality. No one is coming to help you. You have to help yourself. Um, the media, the news organizations, which are the big ones, especially on television, are owned by contractors that produce neuroweapons. They're owned by telecom companies that own and have access to and control the satellites, which are the origin of neuroweapons. They are not going to come right out on TV and tell you that they're manufacturing this stuff, and they may actually be bound by some sort of, uh, you know, in their contract that they can't talk about it. So I don't necessarily totally blame them, but all the way up the line, uh, for bizarre reasons I can't even begin. It seems like no one like. I wonder if everybody involved, including most of us before we were forced to learn about this, simply just trust that everybody else that should be paying attention is, and that if they were paying attention, that they would let us know. I don't know why the police just ignore this problem. It's bizarre. I literally am speechless. I'm trying to wrap my head around why. You look at like the medical industry. I mean, yeah, there's an incentive for them to ignore it and just make more money, but like, doctors are so, of course, aside from a few of the really good ones, I mean, it's just literally a handful, a couple dozen PhDs at this point that have really, stuck their neck out there and said, this is a problem and this is what's causing it. Other than that, as a whole, it's bizarre that, in the mental health community, that they would rather just, they'd be much more quick to write in your file. If you brought this up to them, they'd be like, oh, he's nuts. These are people that are totally non-informed. It's like, do they not, when they're out of work, I thought they would be like reading up on things that were on the sort of cutting edge of technology and new things that would be coming along so that they could, be quick to diagnose and protect people from this. But they're not at all, not even a little. And they're not even like shy about it either. Like they don't know what they're talking about. And they'll just, oh, this person's nuts. Write it in your file like it's nothing. Just blacklist you for the rest of your life in your file for good. It's bizarre. It's really hard to like understand. I wonder if they think that other people who are supposed to be paying attention to this, as Dr. John Hall puts it, he goes, it all comes from like the central brain at the top, and if the blah 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 association doesn't tell them this is the deal and we know this for a fact, then they don't accept it as a fact, or worse yet, they're not allowed to. You know what I'm saying? Until they're told that you can diagnose this, they can't diagnose it. It's odd. But like you go to like but you can apparently if you're the doctors for the Cuban diplomats. There was no problem there. All 25 of them, neuroweapons, no problem. Took them a little while to announce it. I don't know how long it took them to figure it out. And it's funny, I was reading one of the articles and like, it was like one doctor, she was like, I was speaking to one of the other doctors and I said, hey, I was reminded by another colleague of this little known thing called the Frey Effect. And one of the first easiest symptoms of the Frey effect, common symptoms of the Frey effect, is like clicking and popping and tinnitus and weird, things in your ear and like, this. The diplomats reported feeling like an energy flowing through them and like these bizarre symptoms. Do you think it could be that? Do you think it could be? Of course, it's that. I mean, I'm glad they finally came to that, but it took them a long time. So, maybe everybody just thinks that somebody else who's supposed to be paying attention to this is, but we should know better by now. You know what I'm saying? The FDA isn't really testing drugs like they're supposed to be. John Oliver said a great thing on like medical devices on how like there's different level of clearances and testing, and all the doctors just assume that they're safe. They literally were like, "Oh, I just assumed that the FDA was paying attention to this sort of thing, and then making sure," but they're not. They're not at all. Like doctors are installing, implants and medical devices that haven't had adequate testing and are failing and causing all, and they just go, "Oh, we just assumed someone was paying attention to that." So it seems very common for people to just make that generalized assumption. I don't really know. Um, a little off the subject. So this video is supposed to be helping people cope with it, but I guess this is the reality because I think you're going to think, well, how the hell did this happen? Um, but apparently it takes time. As with a lot of things, the discovery of HIV, they thought, oh, it just popped up in the 80s, and they literally tracked it back to sub-Saharan Africa in the 1920. But it took, people were dying from it, but they would just die, and people would go, oh, we don't know what it is. And of course, that was well before germ theory, and then it took a long time before they could start testing blood and sort of connect all the dots. But literally, like, HIV started, 80 some odd years before people thought. They just needed to know what to look for. Um, I guess that's just human nature, but here we are, and it's very difficult. Um, One of the best things you can do to help yourself cope is to realize that you're not alone. Um, Gang stalking is built into cults. It's always been there. It's been done and happened in every country in the world. Always has. Uh, People in positions of power that want to silence their personal and political enemies. Cults, when someone tries to leave, they are followed in groups and slandered, and their houses are broken into and their pets are poisoned, and it's just cookie cutter. It's always been that way. So you are not the first. You won't be the last. It seems to be just one of the dark, unfortunate parts of human nature. Um, because of denial, we're more comfortable. We can't handle uncomfortable truths, so we just rather believe, an untruth that makes us feel good, even though it's not true at all. That we're like, oh, this isn't happening. Not my problem. That sort of thing. And that's really where, in that sort of gray area of apathy, where gang stalking and neuroweapons attacks sort of breed and live. It's sad and unfortunate, but true. One thing to make you feel better, and this is quite morbid, that you're definitely not the only one. According to Dr. Robert Duncan, every single American, literally, the neuroweapon system is capable of handling every single American at the same time. Oh, my pork chops are done. At the same time. So I'm going to try to finish this up. Oh, the light is blinking. The exponential rise in illnesses is caused by neuroweapons. So every time you're feeling down about being gang stalked or attacked with neuroweapons, think of the victims of mass shootings. Think of the families of the people that have been lost, killed, or done the shooting. They're the victims too because they were attacked with neuroweapons. Think of the rise of the children with autism and the parents that are struggling to deal with that illness in their child and how it's changed their lives. Think of all of the exponential increase of cancer rates. All of that is neuroweapons. You are just one. If you're being overtly targeted, you're just one of the unfortunate few people that they wanted to know, it was happening. And that in itself, of course, is a weapon, because then you understand this isn't incidental or by chance. This is being done to you. And that is harder to carry. But the only difference between you and everybody else is that they don't know it. Everyone is being microwaved literally with a neuroweapon because it's a tracking program at all times. Everyone. There's no difference between you and the person down the street, and a lot of people have it worse. They've been shot, died in a mass shooting. They've been stricken with autism that affects the child's life, the parent's life, you name it. So to help you better cope, you are not alone. And the truth always comes out. The people that are doing this think they're going to get away with it. They will, and they have for decades, and they will for decades more, I'm sure. But the truth always comes out because they always up the ante. This is their drug, and they're going to need a bigger dose. They're going to need to do more to more people to get their high, and they will eventually get caught. And really getting caught is when we accept that this is happening. The irony is that we already know, but as a public, we just can't handle it. We can't accept it. Once we accept it, that's really when the truth comes out, even though the truth is already out. So read Dr. John Hall, Guinea Pigs, Technologies of Control. Read Dr. Robert Duncan, How to Tame a Demon. Those are great, succinct, right to the point books to help you understand how this works and protect yourself in the future. Watch my other videos on my YouTube channel, and go to Anti-Tinnitus V2K, of course, if you haven't already, and order the only known countermeasure. Even if you're only being gang stalked, you're already being attacked with neuroweapons. Trust me. Don't wait until it's too late, because then it's harder to cure. Thanks for watching.